Has the fountain of youth been found by living underwater?
Welcome to Colonize the Ocean podcast, where we discuss oceanic colonization, exploration, and education with your hosts Adam Jewell and Brendan Traxler.
So if you've been following us or, underwater science and news for any period of time, you know that last year, Dr. Joseph Dituri spent 90 days straight at Jules Undersea Lodge, setting a world record for longest time of anybody being underwater like that. So, obviously there's multiple purposes, but the biggest one was, scientific research on the effects of humanity underwater. And, for us that are interested in living and working underwater for extended periods of time, this is valuable information. We've had divers, do quite a while underwater before. And at Jules, actually the world record before that was 83 days, I think it was. So we've got a bunch of this information already out there, but not to this extent. And some fascinating things were learned on this. And so, we're going to talk a little bit about the health benefits. It's something we've covered before in some of these podcasts, either on the shorts or in our live stream, but we've got actual data now backing some of this stuff up. And so it's very fascinating. One of the things he learned is, I guess he's 6'1" and he lost 3/4 of an inch just due to the pressure of being in Jules. And Jules is only less than 1 atmosphere, right at 1 atmosphere in depth. So not super deep, not lots of pressure, but I do also know that Jules keeps their habitat, when we were talking to Thane, who was working there then Babe and I were there, they kept it very highly pressured, more so than it needed to be, just so there was zero risk of no flooding or anything like that to go on. So it does become a very low-end hyperbaric chamber of a sort, and that's kind of the information that they found during these reports. Some of it they're still going over, so some of it's a grain of salt here as far as some of the information found out as they're still weeding through all this information. And obviously this is going to have to be repeated, as anything in science does, which we'll talk about in a second. But some of that stuff was, not only did he lose a little bit of height, which that's a bummer, but what he gained was a lot of good stuff. That his sleep was noticeably better. His what was it? Got the article right here in front of me. I was looking through right before we started recording this. But yeah, he noticed a massive increase in his sleep. That his stem cells, he had 17 times more stem cells after getting out, which in itself is amazing because stem cells are what definitely helps heal. And they said this, and he goes, this isn't going to heal everything. He goes, but it's interesting that that's there, and what does this mean? And that's one of the unknowns. Also, his DNA structures were basically, put it in more layman's terms, that he de-aged by being underwater in the pressure for that period of time. Now, he did notice that he does intermittent fast as well and doesn't eat. He has a small window where he eats. And that has been also shown to help with that. But they had a baseline before he went underwater and then when he came out. And they said even since then, even though some of these DNA strands have regrown a little bit back to normal, they're still a whole lot younger than they normally should be. So like I started this thing off with, is living underwater the potential to enhance aging or decrease the effects of it? And I know that there's been theories in the past because, you're going to be shielded from radiation from the sun, and your air and everything is going to be filtered. So everything's going to be much purer and cleaner living underwater. And back in the 90s, there was, and I reference it all the time, but Sequest, and they actually had an episode where they addressed this as well, where there was a guy played by Charlton Heston and he was 120 years old, living in a cave underwater. And that was his whole science thing. He found that, because of this, he was able to prolong his life. So once again, science fiction isn't too far off that they're showing that this may actually be an option here or a possibility. So I think it's going to be interesting. And where I said that, we're going to talk a little bit later, was I was actually in contact with the other day with someone, and they said they were talking to somebody that's trying to do a whole entire year underwater. They're trying to get a group together to do a whole year. I don't know if this one person is going to try to stay the whole year or is just like an ongoing type of thing. But regardless, if we can get 6-9 months, a year worth of data from people living nonstop underwater, I think we'll have a much better picture of what the health benefits and risks are going to have. But it sounds like to lose a little bit of height, but to be able to gain years and quality years onto your life, as well as maybe reversing some ailments, which hyperbaric medicine has shown to be able to do anyway, whether it is tension. And we actually talked about this on one of our episodes about the benefits of a hyperbaric chamber in health means. So a lot of information. I definitely encourage people to look up his work. I'm going to put one of these articles or two of these articles in the notes on this podcast here. But yeah, so not much of a question for this week, but would you be willing to lose an inch or two in order to have a better quality of life?